Hi folks, so I am, well, this is a video about what it says it's about, but at the top of this video, I have a few ideas. I want to start doing a few newish things that I want to experiment with. So I'm certainly going to start to do shorts, and I'm seriously thinking about if I were to offer memberships, and they will be inexpensive. They'll be really, really inexpensive. Like, what would I put behind it? What am I passionate about sharing? I know that I'm very passionate about having people develop a relationship with their own birth charts. So I think I might focus on that and go in that direction. But another idea or thought I've had is I used to, when it came to returning clients, I used to give them the option of a 30-minute reading, and it never worked. It never worked. Part of it is that both I and the client would go into it with the assumption that it was basically a shortened regular reading, and there really is no such thing. Those of you who've had readings with me know that I am flexible and I think generous with my time, partly because astrology readings don't have an end time necessarily. Now, that doesn't mean that I go on for hours and hours, and no client has ever expected me to go on for hours and hours. But it just means that you can't just be looking at a chart and be in conversation with someone and just turn it off when the alarm goes off. That's not how it works. There are things that kind of need to be said or expressed or looked at and reviewed, and you do. And as I said, it's not a question of going massively over. It's just a way in which a holistic chart reading is approached. And my emphasis is always particularly on transits. It's not that I don't like to look at natal chart placements, and I look at them and I bring them up, but my emphasis is primarily on what is going on right now, what relationship does it have to what has been going on for a few years before, and what is coming up a few years from now. That tends to be why people reach out to me. What's going on? This is what's going on. What's the general energy I'm dealing with right now? What is it as far as my chart is concerned, etc. And as a result of which the 30-minute readings never really worked. There's one client with whom I continue to do 30-minute readings, and he manages to make it work, and I've now figured out how or why. He always just says, can we just focus on this one area? And in doing so, and that way he's mindful, I'm mindful, and I never even get to a 40-minute mark with him because he's so clear and keeps things moving, and we honor time and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, I want to try something. I want to try an offering, and I don't know if this is something that I really want to do for an extended period of time. I will do a separate video about it. But if any one of you is interested in a 30-minute reading and we're going to keep it focused, like on a topic and on a area, on a particular aspect or a particular something that's going on. And I would charge $50 for it. I think that's what I would say, $50. And those of you who, at least in the States or in Europe, do readings with, that is even, that's a good deal. When it comes to a few other locations like India, etc., you can question whether it's a good deal. You know what, it makes sense to me. It's not like I'm just pulling a few cards or something like that. So I'm going to put that out there. When it comes to shorts, it's important, I think, when you're doing something professionally, to keep things alive and to experiment with things and to keep things new and plant new seeds and expand things. And I feel like I've gotten to a point where the channel continues to grow. I'm enjoying doing the videos. I'm not going to make any changes to what I'm currently doing, but I want to start to mix things up and change things up and kind of make them more interesting and exciting. So my email address, of course, is in the description box below. If you're interested in a 30-minute reading focusing on one particular topic, one particular area, if you feel we can maybe squeeze in more, just let me know in the email and we'll see what we can do. Trying to honor my time, and we'll keep it to a max about 40 minutes. I'll be mindful of it as well. For $50, then go ahead and send me an email. I can get you information, whatever it is, and then we can take it from there and see if it works or not. I want to start offering it and see how it works. And if you're interested in it, as I said, especially for a time like Mercury retrograde, I got another inquiry from someone. Actually, this is the other thing that made me think, and they wanted something focused on a very particular topic for the month of August. And I thought, all I can offer is my regular reading, which is I mean, we can use that time, but it doesn't feel like that's the right solution. So it's on offer. My email address is in the description box below. This is something I'm experimenting with. I may discontinue it at some point. I may not do it for a while. I'm going to put some structure around it. Eventually, I'm going to keep thinking about it. But if you are interested in a 30-minute reading, sort of max 40 minutes, where we focus in on one particular area, one dilemma, one challenge, one issue, one area of the chart, just, it could be something like finances or relationships or career specifically, or job change, or housing, or renting or selling, something along those lines. Then I want to see how it goes. You can use my email address below. Let me know if you're interested in doing that and piloting this with me, and we'll go ahead and give it a shot. And I will clearly deliver when I do regular readings. For the first, I like to say 20 to 30 minutes. It can go a little longer. I like to just talk without knowing anything about the client or what they're going through. That keeps the entire discussion really clean. And part of the problem with the earlier 30-minute readings I was offering, I was trying to do the same thing, and it's not the right paradigm. Whereas in the 30-minute reading, if we actually define at the outset what we're going to focus on, I think this could be something that might work. So again, the offer is there to people who are viewing these videos and who are subscribed to my channel. To anybody who comes across this, email address is in the description box below. Let me know if you're interested in doing a 30-odd minute reading. As I said, max 40 minutes, focusing on an area, a topic, etc., for $50. And I want to see what that feels like. And when I say I want to see what it feels like, just trust and know that I will deliver in that time. I'm not experimenting with it because I'm unconfident of reading a chart for a particular topic. When I say I want to see how I feel about it. Do I enjoy it? Is it worth it? Does it feel useful? Does it feel like I'm being of service? Does it feel like a viable solution to offer? Okay, so it's out there. Plus, with the shorts and anything else that I'm putting on, I'm just gonna, you'll see them. If they're interesting to you, you can watch them, etc. I'm just thinking about different offerings. Let's continue on with this particular video. I want to acknowledge that yesterday, on the 7th of August, so funny, I just realized that's August the 8th, sort of that Lionsgate portal thing, which, by the way, I'm not sure why it has become such a big thing. I haven't found the Lionsgate portal to be kind of a universally resonant thing. It is kind of funny that I'm doing this and experimenting with a few things on this date. I mean, whether that's a coincidence or whatever that is, we can let it be. But so far, on an annual basis, as I have approached August the 8th, and as I've seen it for people around me, I haven't gotten a sense of this kind of Lionsgate portal being particularly resonant or massively meaningful or impactful in any way. Now, I'm going to keep, as you know, until I see something relatively consistently that makes me feel like I have seen it enough with this transit, I have seen it enough with these dates, I don't let it become, I remain skeptical. And so when I discuss what I see and what I know transits to be about, it is about as based on my experience reading charts and than it is. I'm not, that's really what I like to base things on. So it's an open question. It's just a funny thing that I noticed. Yesterday, August the 7th, Mercury retrograde and Venus conjuncted in the sign of Virgo. And this video is about transits through the sign of Virgo. And it may feel like this is kind of an inconsequential topic, but bear with me for a few minutes because I really feel like it's something we need to start looking at. As the personal planets, Venus currently, the Sun, Mercury currently, but then after it goes direct on the 28th and comes back into Virgo. The new moon in Virgo on September the 2nd. Next week, as we head to this particularly dynamic and action-oriented and frankly, possibly stressful full moon on August the 19th in Aquarius that squares Uranus and also has the Mars, Venus, Saturn square. So Mars squaring Venus and Venus and Saturn opposing each other going on. Plenty going on as we head towards next week. Especially with Venus in Virgo opposing Saturn in Pisces, it is time to start looking at transits going through the sign of Virgo because they make some important aspects. It's funny, in the second half of this year, as I've mentioned to you, even through January, February, even into March, the sign of Leo remains active, surprisingly consistently. We've got Mercury going retrograde for the 9 degrees of Leo. We've had that going on. Venus has already made her way through Leo. Mercury is going to be re-entering Leo again, I think on August the 14th, unless I'm mistaken. Give me 1 second. Let me just see if I actually have that date. On August the 14th. And then, of course, Mercury goes back to about 21 degrees of Leo, goes direct on August the 28th, and then on September the 9th, makes its way back into the sign of Virgo. And give me 1 sec. I have all my Virgo dates here that I want to be able to refer to. And so Mercury remains in Leo, of course. The new moon in Leo created the month of Leo, with the word month being derived from the moon, from August the 4th to September the 2nd. And some of the aspects that the personal planets have made through the sign of Virgo, through the sign of Leo, were important and expansive. They laid the groundwork for expansiveness insofar as they trined the North Node in Chiron in Aries and squared Uranus in Taurus. And with Mercury, the square to Uranus and the trine to Chiron will, of course, occur 3 times through its retrograde period. Also, on August the 18th, a retrograde Mercury and the Sun conjunct, creating and starting a Mercury cycle in the sign of Leo, which will take us all the way through December. And then Mars, which enters the sign of Cancer on, I think it's September the 6th, 10th, somewhere, then it's going to, in November, make its way into Leo, but then on December the 6th, go retrograde. And December, January till February the 4th, it's going to be retrograde through Leo into Cancer and then back into Leo once it goes direct in February, and till the middle of April. It doesn't enter Virgo till the middle of next year, practically June or so. So things that have come up since July, since the planets entered Leo. Venus entered Leo on July the 11th, the 12th. Mercury entered Leo on July the 2nd, as I recall. And the planets, as they entered Leo, the Sun entered Leo as it normally does around July the 23rd, they opposed Pluto. And that opposition to Pluto with Mars later on this year, some of these themes connected to the sign of Leo are going to remain active, for the next, practically for almost a year. But what's interesting is that with all this emphasis in the sign of Leo, it still very much feels relatively like a drumbeat in the background and not quite like the main melody or the harmonies or disharmonies that we're going to be dealing with. Whereas the relatively quicker transits through the sign of Virgo, it's actually a pretty short Virgo season. It's a 2-month Virgo season. Virgo season, as far as I'm concerned, started on July the 25th when Mercury entered Virgo when it was direct. It really started up even more on August the 4th when Venus entered Virgo. And Venus is going to make its way through Virgo. With Mercury, as we know, Mercury entered on July the 25th, retrograde August the 4th, back into Leo on August the 14th, and then, kind of back in September 9th. And in the meantime, the new moon will have happened and the sun is going to be in Virgo by that time and all that kind of good stuff. July 25th, Mercury entered Virgo. It was the first of the personal planets to enter Virgo. September 26th is when Mercury leaves Virgo to go to Libra. Mercury, the first planet to enter Virgo, ends up becoming, because of its retrograde, Venus and the sun pass it, and then Mercury follows after it goes direct and becomes the last planet to leave Virgo on September the 25th. And while it is very tempting to think of this Mercury retrograde as predominantly a Leo retrograde, and in terms of degrees it is, in terms of time and timing, Mercury is spending at least between July the 25th and August the 14th quite a bit of time in Virgo, considering it's only made it to 4 degrees of Virgo. And of course, the reason for that is that when Mercury is getting ready to go retrograde or direct, it slows down, it stations, and then it starts to move when it's going retrograde backwards, slowly, and then it starts to gather speed. So by the time it enters Leo, it's going to be fast moving, fast enough that it's going to go up to 90 odd degrees of Leo. But then it's going to turn, when it's direct, it's going to spend a fair amount of time in Leo because it's going to be slow in Leo, and it's only that it's going to make its way into Virgo on September the 9th. And guess what? In 2 days, by September 11th, it will clear 4 degrees because it's going to be moving forward so fast by that point in time. So the same space that it's going to cover between September 9th and September 11th when it is direct in 2 days, but it is covering between August 4th and 14th right now when it is retrograde and moving slowly, those same 4 degrees. And so the Mercury retrograde in Virgo is important, and Mercury retrograde conjuncting Venus yesterday was also important. I'm going to refer you back to my last video that I did, the weekly overview for this week, where I said that on the surface, we have only one general aspect this week, which is a Mercury retrograde conjuncting Virgo. So technically, it should be an uneventful week if I were to be shallow about it. But if I were to be more accurate about it, it is not an uneventful week at all. And this sense of what I've brought up in my new moon in Leo video, what I've brought up in my August monthly overview video, in terms of the sort of general long-term prognosis that I've done between September coming up to June of next year, even the videos that I've done on the new set of eclipses, but especially the weekly overview earlier this week, and both the monthly and the new moon in Leo video. August is a month of getting real, reality checks, reckoning. Mercury retrograde, as I've mentioned to you before, on the surface creates a great deal of irritation logistically. I've had my share of, heck, look at my weekly overview and what happens during it technically. It just sort of goes bananas technically a little bit in terms of what I was trying to do. All of a sudden, things were being copied and pasted. I was just like, I think I pressed one button. And it just kind of led to a kind of chaos during the reading, irrespective. Even more than that, there have been websites I tried to go into where I could swear that I know what the password is, and then there's a forget password, and everything takes just that much longer. Also with Mercury retrograde, and especially with Mercury having slowed down on August the 4th and now retrograde and moving back and conjuncting Venus, the idea of delays, the idea that things moved forward faster, manifested faster, were flowing faster, and all of a sudden, particularly related to the houses in your chart that Mercury rules, particularly related to the houses occupied by the signs of Gemini and Virgo in your birth chart, activities and flow related to those charts gets affected, slows down. And in general, there's this kind of things just don't, if you say, well, I think I should get this by such and such, or we should have this resolved by such and such date, or this will get sorted out here, or it's just like, don't even think of, setting a deadline or expecting or expressing a deadline, because chances are it's just going to be its own darn thing. It's going to take its own sweet. Mercury will deliver when it's going to deliver. And the broader, deeper purpose for Mercury retrograde will be fulfilled. And that is to give us a reality check. And to give us a reality check in connection with, whatever it is that we have built, whatever it is that has acquired a patina or a surface of fantasy when Mercury was moving fast during the 3 months preceding the retrograde in May, June, and July. As there was forward movement, as is normal during forward movement, things flowed and certain assumptions were operating. And when Mercury goes retrograde, it's a kind of a, let's get real about a few things. Here are the facts. And here's what I need you to reckon with. And here's what's actually going on. And here's where things are really headed and what's actually going on here. So are you going to keep as I say this with Mercury retrograde all the time, are you going to keep investing in this basket? Or has this served its purpose, and are you going to move forward? What doors remain open? What doors remain closed? Sometimes the realizations, especially through the means of communication mishaps, can be overt. And sometimes the realizations are internal and unmistakable. What was I thinking? There's absolutely no way. This would take so much time to do. This is the right direction. Mercury retrograde is a necessary reversal. There's a reason why Mercury says, I'm going into reverse, and we are going to spend 3 weeks reversing, because I need you to go back to the drawing board with certain aspects of your plans and how you are moving forward. And in its conjunction with Venus yesterday, Mercury retrograde and Venus conjuncting made us think about. So as we enter this Virgo season, and the 3 things that have happened so far, July 25th, Mercury entered Virgo. August the 4th, Venus entered Virgo and Mercury turned retrograde. August the 7th, Venus and Mercury retrograde conjuncted. Now in the sign of Virgo, nothing happens until we get to August the 19th, other than Mercury going back into Leo on August the 14th, which doesn't really concern Virgo. And on August the 19th, Venus opposes Saturn in Pisces, and Venus squares Jupiter in Gemini. I'm so sorry. I think Venus does square Mars as well, but the real squares that are intense when we come to the Aquarius full moon on August the 19th is Jupiter squaring Saturn and Venus and Saturn opposing each other. Mars and Jupiter conjunct a couple of days before, so the squares to Mars are also clear and also real. So I didn't misspeak, but it's the Jupiter slowdown. Our luck, our flow, Saturn in Pisces is a very important presence in August and September. And Saturn in Pisces is a very important presence as we head to the full moon on August the 19th. Demanding that we get serious and real about stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart. She is going to force Venus, because it's in opposition, to serve her requirements. It is a sit up and pay attention reckoning time. And she's going to slow down Jupiter and say, Jupiter, you want to create your ending and new beginning, an auspicious, benefic path in the Gemini part of the chart. You're not going to be able to do so until you make sure that I am served and that attention is being paid to stabilizing with responsibility and discipline the Pisces part of the chart. And we can feel this energy building now, because even though these aspects start to become exact August 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, the orbs start to get closer and closer starting now. The planets, the personal planets, as they make their way through Virgo, oppose Saturn, square Jupiter, trine Uranus, square Neptune. And in some cases, as long as this happens prior to September the 2nd, after September the 2nd, trine Pluto. All the planets are going to trine Pluto, but prior to September 2nd, the planets that move into Libra will trine Pluto when they're in Libra, because Pluto is in the very first degree of Aquarius. September 2nd, he moves back into Capricorn. So the personal planets, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, even the new moon, and then of course when we're looking at new moon in Virgo on September 2nd, the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces on September the 17th, all make very important placements to Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, the sign opposite Virgo. But the personal planets will oppose Saturn in Pisces, square Jupiter in Gemini, trine Uranus in Taurus. That is the one expansive, forward-moving, here's the opportunity trine that occurs. Square Neptune, and if it happens after September the 2nd, trine Pluto, another forward-moving. So when it comes to the sign of Virgo, and the personal planets transiting the sign of Virgo, it is very emblematic of the theme and the time that we're in now. The Aries and the Taurus part of our chart signify our excitement, our adventure, where we want to go, where the growth potentially is, the path that is individual and right for us, what we need to lean into. The Aries part of the chart, especially talking about the arc of wanting to go in a certain direction since April the 19th of 2023, that reaches some sort of culmination or conclusion by the end of the first week of June of 2025. Take a look at my September to June video if you want more details on that arc. And Mercury retrograde during August and into early September will trine Chiron in Aries and will square Uranus in Taurus. So even from Leo, those expansive aspects will occur. Opportunity and opportunities will be present in August and September. And I think kind of excitingly, remember I've said after September 2nd, we enter the birth canal and we start to move forward. Even into September, with these trines that the personal planets will make from Virgo to Uranus in Taurus and Pluto in Capricorn. That is an Earth trine, and that takes us. That trine is one of the key growth, adventure, forward-moving trines that has been in play and in place since April of 2023. But as I've said all along, it is our ability to stabilize and focus on the Pisces part of the chart and ensure that whatever crisis has been brewing there since 2012, but especially peaking in 2016-17, needs to be stabilized. And Saturn, if you have Saturn retrograde in your birth chart, you are going to feel this need to stabilize this part of the chart even more intensely now while Saturn is retrograde. And with the personal planets getting ready to, Venus being the first of them, and it's the Venus-Saturn opposition that for me is the most trying and the challenging. Venus's conjunction with Mercury retrograde in Virgo yesterday, the very first aspect that a retrograde Mercury does, means that there is a getting sober and real about relationships and finances. And yes, artistic and creative and Venusian opportunities and beautification and even to some extent healing, but a retrograde Mercury talking to Venus is like, let's get real. Relationships, finances. What has been operating on a level or a realm of fantasy? Yes, there's now a potential slowdown on all accounts. What is it making you present and aware of? And the next aspect that Venus makes as she makes her way through Virgo, bringing opportunity, bringing perhaps a certain amount of financial flow and gain, especially now that she's moving past Mercury retrograde. Thank you, August the 8th onwards. But the very first thing she's going to do is she's going to end up opposing Saturn on August the 19th. When whatever gains are made over the next week or 10 days, Saturn is going to be like, that goes in my purse. That goes to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. Now, as Venus moves forward, past the Aquarius full moon, which is a real shakeup, sort of the crux of what this Mercury retrograde is about, what we need to get real about, what we need to get sober about, where we need to go back to the drawing board, where we need to look at our plans. And remember, whatever it is that you're committing to right now, if you have Mercury direct in your birth chart, you may find that when Mercury goes direct after the 28th, gets revised somehow, accelerated somehow. So you might think that a timeline for something looks this or the details look like this, but as you head into September, things might look different. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't participate in the process. The new moon on September the 2nd opposes Saturn. It's, for me, a little bit wide. It's a little over 5 degrees, but Saturn is big enough that we are going to treat that as an opposition. So Venus opposes Saturn and squares Jupiter on August the 19th, the day of the Aquarius full moon. On the 22nd of August, Venus squares Mars, fine. On the 26th, Venus trines Uranus. So as we clear the full moon and get to the last week of August is when the opportunity or opportunities might start to show up as well with regard to, okay, so how do I move forward? In the middle of all the stabilizing Pisces, dealing with the stress and the reality of what Mercury retrograde is telling me, and particularly thematically, it may have to do with relationships and finances, our relationship and financial health, an assessment and getting real on those things, eradicating the patina of fantasy and flow that was created by a certain amount of flow in May, June, and July. And the planet that's saying, I don't care what's going on in Leo, I don't care what's going on in Virgo, I don't care what's going on anywhere. Saturn is in the room going, I am the strict teacher around here, and I am the one who manages your 3D reality, and I am the one who is going to teach you the lessons you need to learn. And if it means that it's nose to the grindstone time, in order to honor Saturn, then it's nose to the grindstone time. If it's time to prepare for your finals, then it's time to prepare for your finals. Chances are Even though it's Mercury retrograde, and even though it's August, remember that the tarot card for August is the Chariot. Chances, we are going to have to try to drive this chariot in a certain direction with these two sphinxes that are sitting down. And the chariot is paved with stars, and he looks like he has a purpose. But there are things to juggle. Opportunity in the Aries and Taurus part of the chart, and a sobering need to manage crises in the Pisces part of the chart. And action and skill will be needed step by step to do what needs to be done. And to move in the direction that you need to move in. Because once, for example, and I'm just going over the Venus transits, once Venus trines Uranus 2 days later, on the same day when Mercury goes direct, Venus is going to oppose Neptune. The full moon lunar eclipse on September the 17th is conjunct Neptune. Go back to the week before and after July the 17th and tell me that you weren't dealing with gaslighting issues and deception and whoever or whatever has been causing turmoil in the Pisces part of your chart for a while, even since 2012, peaking in 2015, 16, 17, where the presence was really felt, 14, 15. Now, some of it could be multiple crises. As I said, with the Pisces part of the chart, Neptune's influence in the Pisces part of the chart, it could also be a need to put structure around spiritual or artistic plans and goals that for a long time have been approached foggily. So the oppositions to Saturn, the oppositions to Neptune, go back to that Capricorn full moon on July the 21st. I know it was in Capricorn, but I told you in that Capricorn full moon video, you may feel that like a Pisces full moon because it's 2 months before the Pisces eclipse. And again, this is one of those things that comes up for me through my experience. 2 months before a lunar eclipse, themes related to that lunar eclipse come up. And remember, from July, the week before and after July the 17th to September the 17th is an overall arc, because September 17th is the lunar eclipse in Pisces, that no matter what's going on with Mars and Gemini, and no matter what's going on in the Leo part of the chart, no matter what's going on in the Virgo part of the chart, that is, eclipses are the most important aspect in your chart. And the arcs and timelines created by those are unmistakable. Not every eclipse hits us with the same intensity. But we have a lunar eclipse in Pisces conjunct Neptune on September the 17th. On September the 2nd, we have a new moon opposite Saturn. During August and September, through the transits that the personal planets will make, in Leo, with Mercury retrograde especially, squaring Uranus, trining Chiron, it's August the 8th, so the sun is going to be going through these transits as well. I mean, the full moon in Aquarius is squaring Uranus in Taurus, because the sun is in Leo and the moon is in Aquarius. But with all of that, you also have August the 4th, Venus in Virgo, August the 7th, Venus conjuncting Mercury retrograde, August the 19th, Venus opposing Saturn and squaring Jupiter, August the 22nd, Venus squaring Mars, and the Sun enters Virgo, August the 25th, Venus trine Uranus, August the 28th, Venus opposes Neptune, August the 29th, Venus enters Libra, and because it is September the 2nd, she trines Pluto from Libra to Pluto in Aquarius. September 2nd, the new moon opposing Saturn. September the 8th, the sun actually opposes Saturn, goes direct. September the 9th, Mercury in Virgo. September the 12th, the sun squares Jupiter. September 17th, the Pisces eclipse. September 18th, the sun trines Uranus and Mercury opposes Saturn. September the 20th, the sun opposes Neptune. September the 21st, Mercury squares Jupiter. September the 22nd, the sun trines Pluto and then enters Libra. September the 24th, Mercury trines Uranus. September the 25th, Mercury opposes Neptune. September the 26th, Mercury trines Pluto and enters Libra. And on October the 2nd, the birth canal that we entered on September the 2nd intensifies even more and the acceleration increases. Why? Because we have the new moon solar eclipse in Libra in the part of the chart where we need to release something. September, October, November till Thanksgiving, forward movement. August, reckoning, getting real about things. But getting real about things also means that a certain amount of action is going to need to be taken. The planet that is active in the sign of Virgo during the month of August is Venus, is our relationships and our money. And yes, our creative opportunities and our beautification. Venus, wherever she goes, brings help, brings aid, brings blessings, brings flow. But during August, it's just, she has that trine to Uranus, which is lovely. So it makes me think, okay, as we get to August the 26th, but right after that, then, there's the opposition to Neptune. She's held in check, and all these planets during August and September, in some ways, you can almost group together. You can look at August as a Mercury retrograde version of the month that then in September we're going to have with Mercury direct. And as I've said to you, the new moon in Leo, and to some extent the new moon in Virgo on September 2nd, but the new moon in Leo on August the 4th, whatever it is bringing you, you will see results of it, for it, after September the 2nd, into September, October, November, once Mercury is direct. If you have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart, I say this all the time, you might find yourself increasingly and steadily clear and decisive and settling any areas that were confusing to you prior to August the 4th. Even August the 1st, 2nd, if you were like, shall I do this? Shall I do this? Mercury will go retrograde August the 4th, and you'll be like, you know what? This is what I'm doing. This has shown up for me again. And because I'm an astrologer, I'm cautious with my Mercury retrograde clients, and I say, experiment with it. Because I really don't want to, I'm so conditioned to say, oh, be careful of making commitments while Mercury is retrograde. But it is showing up for me again. When I talk to clients who have Mercury retrograde in their chart, they are clear and decisive and quick in a way they are not while Mercury is direct. While Mercury is direct, there is an extended processing time. And I don't want anyone to despair that they've been born with retrograde planets, because very often people achieve as much during a retrograde, if they've got a retrograde in their birth chart, as those of us who are direct while Mercury is direct, or Saturn is direct, or Jupiter is direct. I say this to my Jupiter retrograde clients all the time. You will likely achieve as much as Jupiter direct people, and I mean Jupiter retrograde or direct in your birth chart, achieve in 8 months, you will achieve in 4 months while Jupiter is retrograde. You just have to remain in action and keep learning the lessons that you're learning while Jupiter is direct. And then Jupiter goes retrograde for 4 months, and you have Jupiter retrograde in your birth chart. And as long as you have been doing the work and learning the lessons and showing up and understanding what is working and what is not working, and been understanding that things may not manifest for you in the way that they want to, in those 4 months when Jupiter is direct, I find they just go bam, 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 bam. But I think that in the videos that I have done, this is a missing piece that I really wanted to present to you. That yes, Mercury is retrograde, and it is the significant number of degrees that it is traveling while retrograde and direct will be in Leo, and time as well, in fairness. But it is making the significant conjunction yesterday with Venus in Virgo, the first thing that it did. And Venus's transit through Virgo during August, and the transits then of the Sun, and following that Mercury, make August and September months where you have got to, if you are entering a birth canal by September, if between September and the end of June of next year, you are going from A to B or A to E or A to Z, and it's a place where you're trying to get to, that you've been trying to get to since April of last year, this is significant enough that the Pisces part of the chart is saying you are not going to get there until you make sure. It's easier to articulate where you want to go, but the stabilization of the Pisces part of the chart is becoming increasingly important and relevant, not only because we've got Saturn there since March 2023, but because the eclipses have started to move into Pisces. And while it is fair to think that in 2024, it is still largely an Aries-Libra eclipse year. It is, because only one of the 4 eclipses is in Pisces. The other 3 are in Aries or Libra. As soon as we hit January, we're 2 months before the next lunar eclipse in March in Virgo. And yes, we have a solar eclipse in Aries on March the 29th. But 3 of the eclipses in 2025 are on the Pisces-Virgo axis. And we have a lunar eclipse on September the 17th of 2024. And then we have a lunar eclipse on, I think it's March the 14th, 15th of 2025 in Virgo. So the moment we hit January, within a week, we are back to the Pisces-Virgo eclipses. And with a particular emphasis on what it is that needs to be released. August and September, you're going to have to be very, very patient with yourself with frustration when Mercury is retrograde during August. Because there's a reading the riot act quality to some of the transits during August. With Mercury retrograde, the idea of reckoning and getting real on things and going back to the project plans and seeing what is going on, particularly with an eye, as I said, to finances and relationships. Now, when Mercury comes back into Leo and gets ready to trine Chiron, square Uranus, trine Chiron, go direct, trine Chiron, square Uranus, it will balance out the heaviness of the Venus and Virgo aspects that will be occurring around the same time, because it will remain focused on the opportunities, symbolized by the Aries and the Taurus part of the chart. And Venus, as we head towards August the 26th, will also make that connection. But August is where the reality of what we have in front of us, and as you head towards next week, the first 2 weeks of August as we head towards August the 19th are some of the most stressful weeks of this year, potentially. But they're also the most dynamic, and they're also the most change-inducing. We're no longer conjuncting Saturn and Neptune. We're no longer squaring Saturn and Neptune. Remember how uneasy in July the oppositions to Pluto felt, but how empowering they were? Well, the oppositions to Saturn and Neptune will be felt and are already starting to be felt. But what has been felt so far is Mercury retrograde conjuncting Venus, saying, oh, you're getting ready to oppose Saturn and Neptune. Oh, okay. Well, let me just tell you why I'm going and what are the things that, let me give you a reality check on finances and relationships and opportunities. And you might say, Abhi, then what's the solution? What's the way out? What's the way forward? Be pragmatic. if you have to put your nose to the grindstone to start to address certain things. When a planet goes retrograde, this is especially true of Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter, planets that create a certain amount of flow for us of activity. The retrogrades, by stopping that flow, really give us an accurate meter of what the reality of a particular situation is, because we're no longer able to rely on a certain kind of luck and flow that happens when a planet is moving direct fast. The planet withdraws its energy. The planet is pulling back, not moving forward. And as a result of which, we go, oh my God, this is where I was relying on all these things happening normally to help move things along. And now all of a sudden that is no longer there. And so, as I said, there are delays, there are slowdowns, there are challenges, there's this, that, and the other. So you've got to be really watchful. And if it means that you have to exert that much more to make certain things happen, to catch up on tasks, to figure out what you need. And when it comes to relationships, there may be relationships where boundaries have to be set or reassessed. And there may be relationships where you decide that you're going to actually take a really pragmatic approach and do the work and not burn bridges. You're going to have to determine where these are occurring and what these are. How do I act? How do I get clear on what's going on? And how do I factor that into what I really want out of the situation? And what is the most appropriate approach for me to be real about this relationship and yet examine, is there still a bridge? Can there still be a certain amount of functionality? Do I still leave the door open for some opportunity? Or is it done? And on a case-by-case basis, you're going to have to determine what that is. But because we're talking to oppositions to Saturn, and because Saturn likes strategic, pragmatic, professional approaches, not casual, not cavalier, try to examine whether the former is possible, whether a certain amount of bridge building, no matter how disappointing you learn something or realize something, and you realize you've kind of invested certain eggs in a certain basket, and I don't know if this is going to come through or this is real or not. Well, I can either react and there can be a real blow to the relationship, or I can find a way to assert boundaries, pull back, get real, but still maintain a certain cordiality. A lot depends on the nature of the relationship. If it's a professional relationship, it can be an easier thing to do sometimes. More often, if it's a personal relationship and there's a degree of openness and honesty, then it's harder to put up a veneer sometimes. But at other times, you may feel, and this is very Saturnian, you may feel that it is not worth it to get involved in prolonged discussions and drama. As it is, less communication is advised rather than more while Mercury is retrograde. And if you have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart, you're going to find that you are ready to communicate and that you will find yourself pithier, more precise, more succinct than normal. When I do videos, I really try and think, the next video I'm going to do is going to be about the Mercury cycle coming up in Leo and the Aries. Why am I, as an astrologer, thinking about doing these 30-minute videos? Why am I thinking about launching shorts right now? Why am I thinking about memberships? Well, I'll tell you in the next video, because the time between Mercury going retrograde and Mercury conjuncting with the Sun can be a time to finish up communication-related activities related to the last cycle. And for me, that cycle, for all of us, the communication cycle was in Aries. And I know where Aries sits in my birth chart. I know what house it occupies. I know what I've been doing since the Mercury cycle in Aries began. And I'm curious to see as I head towards August the 18th, forgive me, what I'll be able to close out and implement. So sometimes implementing things, this is a Mercury retrograde in August where action is needed. It's commitments that I would suggest keep open-ended if you have Mercury direct in your birth chart. But action is needed. Action is needed to honor Saturn. Action is unavoidable. You can't sit out this Mercury retrograde. If anything, when it comes to finances and relationships, you might find that you have to go into overcompensation mode because you have to serve Saturn as you head over the next 10 odd days. And the opposition to Saturn, the opposition to Neptune with Venus is going to bring up stuff. Financially, relationship-wise. So this particular video, I feel, really needs to be shared with you guys in order to round out the picture of where we're at. You have the weekly overview. You have content in different forms. You have the Leo new moon video that looks at the month of Leo from August the 4th to September the 2nd. You have the August monthly overview. You have, you know, videos on the new set of eclipses. You have the video on September to July. But we need to acknowledge that the aspects being made, you know, when the planets move into the sign of Libra, there's going to be the eclipse and they're going to oppose Chiron and they're going to conjunct the South Node. That's all important. And the planets, as they leave Libra, are going to get ready to start squaring Pluto. From trines, we're going to move to squares, which, you know, it's you know, but it's not oppositions to Saturn, and it's not an oppositions to Saturn that are occurring. Luckily, the Jupiter-Saturn square on August the 19th clears quickly. Now, we know there's going to be another Jupiter-Saturn square on Christmas Eve, I believe, this year. And then the final square will occur after both Jupiter and Saturn move into the signs of Cancer and Aries, respectively, around June, July of next year. Jupiter will move into Cancer for good, starting his 13-month transit there. Saturn is moving into Aries temporarily for the summer and then coming back to finish up in Pisces by January, February of 2026. But Jupiter, a planet that creates aligned luck and breaks and opportunities, and, you know, Saturn is really making his presence very felt. And with Saturn, you know, it's a little bit like the Judgment card in the tarot. It's like, here are the results of what you have been doing. I'm going to blow the trumpet. I'm going to let you know these are the marks you get. You've passed, you've not passed, you're in trouble, you're doing really well, and a lot depends on how Saturnian you've been over the few recent months. And if you've not been Saturnian, disciplined, nose to the grindstone, proactively dealing with issues before they come to a head, well then, with these squares and oppositions to Saturn, my friends, things will come to a head. A very dynamic time. And August and September are like mirrors to each other. August, Mercury retrograde. September, things start to, sorry, it's the opposite hands on the video, I can tell. August, Mercury retrograde. September, things start to move forward. September 2nd, we start to, I can't tell how much time, it's about an hour I should wrap up. We start to move forward in the direction that, you know, we start a forward movement. Okay, I'm going to let you incorporate this. As I said, if you're interested in a regular reading, or if you're interested in a 30-minute reading which is focused on a topic or a subject, email me using the email description below and I will send you the relevant information. I'll send you the information about regular readings if that's what you're interested in. The 30-minute readings cost $50. Just know that in advance. I can also mention that to you when I send you the information. And we can take it from there. It'll give me a sense of whether that $50 offering is worth offering or not. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not already. There's a thanks button that you can use to contribute to the channel. If you subscribe to the channel, next to subscribe, there's a bell icon. If you hover the bell icon, there's a wiggly bell. You can click on that and you'll be notified whenever I do new videos. Comment, like on the videos if you feel so inclined. My gratitude to everyone who does. It does seem to give the videos greater circulation on YouTube. Thank you to everyone who moved over to YouTube and subscribed from Twitter and Facebook. You made that transition much easier for me. I can tell that I've lost a certain amount of views, but not nearly as many as I thought I might. And it allows me to kind of, you know, I'm just, when it comes to certain social media, I'm just like, I'm going through my own, this is because I have my South Node in Gemini. I really need to think about whether social media is my thing or not. I know the answer to that as an astrologer. It's not my thing. It does not promise growth for me. And I'm not talking from a business sense, but in general. And I have known this and I've been feeling this for a while, but you know, the South Node keeps you in that kind of whirlpool-like grip where you get addicted to those things that come to you really easily, but where there's no growth. It kind of, you know, has this kind of rotten fruit kind of feel to it, at least for me. So it helps me make that transition. That was more than I wanted to say about that. Next video, I'm going to talk about the Mercury cycle. I hope you found this useful and helpful, and see you guys soon.